Welcome to Real Estate Success DFW, the podcast where top producing agents from Dallas-Fort Worth come together to share their stories and strategies behind their success. I'm Shaune Corbett, your host, and with over 300 million sold in the local real estate market and the honor of being best of B multiple times, I know what it takes to make it in this market. Each episode, we're going to dive into the world of real estate, learning from the very best in the industry. If you're ready to level up your game, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey everyone, Shaune Corbett here, Real Estate Success DFW, and I have got a guest, Dan Cooper. Hey Dan, how are you?
Doing great, man. How are you doing?
Good. Dan and I have known each other for, I would think, 20 years or so. It's been a long time. He started his professional career, as we call it, at a company that I worked at, and then we both got licenses pretty similar times. I think I might have gotten it a little earlier, but he was doing title sales and he ended up getting real estate and just took off. Some real value adds that Dan's going to kind of talk to us about is he's got a business with virtually zero advertisement, which is definitely counter to the way traditional agents build their business. They want to be everywhere. They do lots of social media. They're sending out postcards. I don't think Dan knows how to send out a postcard, to be honest with you.
I've never done it.
Yeah, never done it. And he's gonna be like, well, how in the world did you make it on the front cover of Real Producers? And he's gonna give us all the juicy secrets, right, Dan?
All right, I'll do my best. My best. Not too much that's a secret there, though.
Well, I'll let you tell a little bit about your background. Like I'm sure when you graduated college, being a real estate agent was not on your list. I'm willing to bet it was not in your top 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are you doing? Why are you selling houses?
So, I consider real estate agent somewhat of a four-letter word, right? And I always did. So still, when people ask what I do for a living, what I do not say is I'm a real estate agent. I say I'm in real estate. And that's because of a long history of, and I'm sorry for the crowd that's watching this, a disdain for real estate agents in the industry. That's how I was brought up and how I got started. So I originally got started straight out of college. I was working for a expert witness litigation firm that did eminent domain hearings, and I was the analyst for the firm. So I was coming at it from the appraisal side. We were commercial, we were land. It was stuff like we did the project for Jerry Jones in the city of Arlington. There were 30, roughly, I believe there's 32 properties sitting on that property in Arlington for AT&T Stadium. They needed to condemn the property. They needed two appraisers, one of which that could take the stand. I was not the one taking the stand. I was working for the guy that did. And so we did there was another appraisal firm that did appraisals for stuff like that. We did them as well. And I was putting together the reports for the guy that was taking the stand. And first it was always for the city of Arlington for Jerry Jones for the main hearings. And people got a fair shake. They got about 5% over valuation. And then because it was independent, he kind of swapped sides and he was working a lot with the property owners as well. So it was back and forth. And it was cases like that we were doing. So I learned the appraisal side real well. That side was all income approach for the most part. On the commercial side, we were dealing with a lot of properties that were triple nets or apartment complexes, things like that were over there. But then it's everything from when you go cost approach for deals that were going to be developed. Now the city needs to, TxDOT needs it for a highway expansion or something like that. We would work those types of cases. So while I was there, I learned a great distaste for a lot of real estate agents, right? People that say, well, price per foot for this property. And I'm like, gosh, let's not go there when we're talking about apples and oranges for if we're talking about triple net stuff, talking about residential price per foot. If we're comparing apples to apples, it may equate, but so I would always roll my eyes and say, here we go again. I did that while I was in college, and then shortly after I left, and then I came to where we met when we were working together. And of course, I kind of transitioned from, do you remember, Shaune, when we had the appraisal management? Of
course, yeah.
Right. So we're doing stuff for Chase Bank and Wells Fargo and bank.
Yeah, they're probably winding that down when you started, and you probably started there. And they
they weren't winding it down. They were ramping that up.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
That was the very beginning of the process. I was there for the very beginning of that. I remember because I thought I was wasting away writing LPR reports. I remember that. Wanting to kill me.
When it's sold to you, it sounds like a really great opportunity, doesn't it?
Oh, it's wonderful. It was the best.
All of a sudden, you're starting to do these limited property reports. It's like, I'm going to lose my mind. Like you're
Oh,
so gregarious and you move around so much. And I can't imagine you sitting at a desk typing and working at these
oh,
reports.
literally drove me crazy.
No
I
doubt.
was thinking I literally have minutes left at this before I'm going to run out of this place screaming. But then we started the appraisal management side, which I knew the appraisal management side. And so we were bringing in, an appraisal network and whatnot. And I started doing a lot of the review work for the appraisals that were coming in that were flagged, right? And then from there, it transitioned to the title insurance side. I'd never done anything sales wise in my entire life, and I didn't want to. So back then, the sales advice was very much, gosh, I want to say we had to listen to cassette tapes and
Oh
videos
yeah.
on how to sell, and don't take no for an answer, or watch out for the slow no. There are all kinds of things like that we talked about. Ask for the business, and they just I, I wasn't willing to do it that way. But honestly, when I tried to do it that way, maybe it's because I was disingenuous when I was doing it, but it just did not work for me. So I took the complete opposite approach to that, and I would never ask for the business, right? I would go into most of my clients. If you remember back when we started that, it was all banks. So it was people, Chase Bank and Washington Mutual. It was small banks. It was places like Prosperity. It was, all over the place, but it was a lot of refi business.
Refi. Yeah. If you're going to banks, you're looking for refis.
Right. This was like 2005, 6, 7.
Yep.
And the refi boom was, real estate was going to the toilet by '08, but refis were still heavy in 2006. So I was going after refi business, and that transitioned into the going to the law firms. We did all the REO work for Fannie Mae, and for Fannie Mae, as 2007 started. It started in 2008,
Yep.
9, 10, 11. Then it was hot, and then it transitioned, of course, into a significant amount of my business was foreclosure business. But I'd go and I'd meet these attorneys, meet these bankers, and we'd, whether we're having lunch or I'm just sitting there talking about the Dallas Cowboys, or there was one dude who had a Green Bay Packers helmet sitting on his desk, and it was in a year where the Packers were having a horrible start to the year. I don't think they won a game for the first 7, 8, 9 weeks, something like that. And I was like, well, I can't talk to him about that. When they won their first game, I started talking about, oh, the Packers finally won. And I would never ask for business, but they knew why I was there. And so eventually, if they liked me, they were going to give me business, and it worked. So
This is kind of important. A couple of things you've already talked about. The price per square foot thing is a big thing. I think anyone in real estate as an agent, they don't always know this, but that's a worthless number. It never works apples to apples, never. And appraisers don't use price per square foot. So I think that's an important indicator. The second thing you talked about is back in the old day when we started in real estate, and you and I we never had traditional training. You know that I never worked for a brokerage. And I didn't have anyone teach me how to buy, sell, or do any of these type of things. I put a sign in the yard and I showed people houses. And all of a sudden I did enough of it. And I did, I think at this point, somewhere around 500 of them at this point. I didn't know how anyone teach or train, but I never asked for the business, right? They have that phrase, every time you meet with someone, do you know anyone that needs to buy, sell, or do real estate? That's canned, obnoxious, ridiculous. And I don't think it works. And I don't think we are doing it anymore today. I don't teach anyone to do it. My emphasis
people
is
still do it all the time. I mean, I get text messages from people that just got their license, and they say exactly that. Oh, if you know of anybody, I'm here to help. Yeah, I see it all the time.
build relationships, man. I mean, what's more powerful? And everything I teach now is sphere. I mean, strictly, exactly the kind of the model that you have. But I think that definitely needs to go away. I think people need to drop that vocabulary and just be genuine and get to know people and find things they like to talk about and enjoy the conversation. It will turn into opportunities.
Right.
Now you were talking about professionals that you joined. I remember one of your elements starting into, and you were doing selling title at the time, was you had a partner that was an accountant. I think one was a CPA, one was a attorney, and then you all got together and y'all started buying properties for rent.
Right.
I think that was one of your spaces that got you into real estate, and you were the agent at the time, kind of facilitating and maybe finding and putting the deals together, and then they would come in and evaluate and everyone would say yes. Y'all did some properties like that. Are y'all together anymore, or is that like a long time ago?
Yeah, no, we're still together. So that started, I want to say that we were buying our first rental properties in 2007. The way that came about was I had a couple of clients that when I was selling title, because I had the appraisal background, they were clients. They were clients of mine, and they would say, hey, they're looking for a property. And they would give me some criteria of rates of return that they're looking for, and and expected appreciation rates or certain growing markets. What do I think about these different things? They'd give me their MLS access, and I'd say, well, here, I think this property's good. This property's good, and then I would start asking them questions about why are you looking for something like this? Like, what's the minimum criteria? And so then I bought my first one. And so that I didn't have to work with a real estate agent, I got my own license. And I was like, but I'm never going to sell real estate to other people because I don't want to be a real estate agent. And then, of course, that was like I don't know, that was 2007, 2008, something like that, of course. So it started on the investment side, purely on the investment side. That group, I want to say we purchased, I don't know, it was 40 or 50 or what. And then I had other partnerships and groups that I was buying different rental properties with. I learned to sweat pipes and run lines through the walls and knock down walls and do some framing. And I mean, we would do everything ourselves until we had kids. Once we had kids, everything changed. And of course, then I brought on a bunch of subs that were working for us, and I would work as the general contractor while I was doing it. But that transitioned me into just knowing other people that said they saw that I had all these rentals. Oh, they were interested in that too. Can I show them how to do it? What's the criteria? And I was like, well, sure, I'll help you buy something. And then as you do that, then it transitions to those people need to live somewhere. And then they ask you to do that. And then they say that they want to buy an apartment complex or a triple net shopping center or an industrial building or, raw land. And so it just kept transitioning, throughout. But my business was all began, honestly, because it was the investment side. I was doing it for myself and people could see it. Again, what's funny is the guy that I would say, when I say trained, and phenomenal guy. He's passed away now, but he was a broker for a really long time.
Oh, he was the one that you parked your license with, and his son took over, right?
Yep, Chuck. His name is Brian. Yeah.
Are you independent now?
Yeah, I am.
It's Cooper Land Company.
Cooper Land Company. I'm the broker. Yeah.
Okay. It was real estate marketing specialist or something.
Yeah, real estate marketing associates.
Yeah.
So Chuck had the same type of disdain, right, for general agents. And hey, there's great agents that I enjoy working with, but it's probably less than 8%, right? About 92% of the industry, unfortunately, just when I say they have no training, no guidance. It's like, honestly, it's like when you go to a used car dealer and you go to you go to a Ford dealership. This happened to me recently. I was looking for another Ford F-250, and I sit down with somebody at a Ford dealership, asking them very basic questions about these new model Fords, and they had literally no idea. And I'm thinking, you sit at a dealership all day with this brand and you don't know anything about the adaptive cruise control or the engine components or the things that you should be educating yourself about. You're selling it, but you don't know anything about it. And unfortunately, that's what happens in real estate as well. You have people that sell real estate, but they couldn't tell you anything about the construction of real estate or about how to value real estate or what makes a good investment over a bad investment. Like, oh, this could be a good Airbnb market versus it's a heavily saturated market. They don't know the ins and outs of real estate, and it's difficult to respect. It's difficult to respect somebody as a salesperson when they haven't spent their own individual time educating themselves on what they're trying to sell.
That's important. What do you think your mix of clients is? Would you say you're still about 50% investor related? Would that be pretty fair? And then you do the other 50 would be the retail people. Hey, I need to list my house, or I need to buy a house for me. And you already have the relationship. You're like, sure, I'll facilitate and take care of that for you as kind of an ancillary benefit of knowing you.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And it's not just, what's funny is like residential's the low hanging fruit. Residential's pretty easy, right? I'd say a good 50% of my business is commercial as well, commercial and raw land for development. So I do quite a bit of that. And of course, those people need houses as well. And so my clients typically are the investor clients or the developer clients or, somebody like that. And then they need to go buy a home themselves, or they're referring me out to their individual network. But never is there a time when I ever tell any of them, hey, by the way, would you also send me your friends and relatives that are also looking to buy houses? Like, that's not my vocabulary, because, and I don't mean this to sound rude when I say it, it's almost demeaning, right? It's like if a true real estate professional, they would understand the ins and outs of whether it was, again, raw land, commercial stuff, residential stuff. If I'm just peddling myself to go buy D.R. Horton homes, That's, somebody at a used car lot that's only peddling whatever vehicles that are in front of me. Right. So, that's why I tell people, hey, I'm in real estate. It means, yeah, I can do commercial leasing. I can do land development stuff with raw land, or, pad sites in a development center, or I can do a residential house. The residential stuff becomes the easy parts of the transaction. They're open and closed in 30 to 45 days versus, 6 months to a year. And, for just a normal commercial transaction, it's going to be 6 months to a year. I mean, I'm doing several right now with due diligence periods of 180 days. And of course, there's a lot to do inside of those periods. So inside of that, I'm developing my own subdivision right now as well. And you were asking about the same guys that I was working with back then buying properties. Back in COVID, while things were, at least for about a month or so, they got pretty slow, and then it got real busy after that. But I was doing a lot of reading, and so I found a huge piece of land out at, or it wasn't a piece of land out at Boat Arc Lake. It was just the idea. And so I found a property off of making lots and lots of phone calls of properties that were not on the market. And I acquired a first 6-acre piece of land, then another 57-acre piece of land, and an 80-acre piece of land, and a 40, and they were all connected properties. And so I went to my business partners and said, hey, I know this sounds crazy, but let's sell our entire portfolio. Let's cash out our equity. I didn't want to take loans on the land, and we needed the equity to be able to get to that, so that we wouldn't be told we have to build now because of interest is accruing. We're going to build when it's ready. And so we have about a 300-acre development we're doing out at Boat Arc Lake that's dockable, but we traded a lot of those. Now, since then, I've purchased a bunch of other regular residential commercial rental properties, but it was that big portfolio with a whole bunch of equity that we needed access to be able to acquire the land that we needed for the big project.
Love it. You still doing weddings?
Oh no, I own a venue. I own a wedding venue. No, that was the very last thing I ever wanted to do. But again, I was looking for a client it was a winery, and he wanted a place in downtown Frisco, and I found a place that I thought, hey, this is a really great opportunity. It was real inexpensive. That guy ended up he became the CFO of Landon Winery, like in Central Texas in the Hill Country. And I told one of my other clients, I said, we should just buy this thing. Let's just buy this thing and let's turn it into, I don't know, a wedding venue, a winery, whatever. So we, fixed it up. And I actually had my dad helping me out for probably 6 months or so. Maybe it was even longer than that. He was running out and just meeting people. And it was like a key for service thing, right? Hey, rent it for a night. Here's the key. The rental fee was $2,500 back then, $3,000 for an event. But the intention was to get a long-term tenant. I think that we've had a tenant there for 7 years. So
they use it as a wedding venue. Is that what they do?
Oh yeah, wedding venue, special events, catering, stuff like that.
Is it Plano?
No, it's in downtown Frisco.
It's in Frisco. Okay. I saw the post you had. This is like a long time ago, 4 or 5 years ago. It's been a while.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
It just dawned on me. I was like, he's got a wedding venue. What is going on here?
That was like 2017 or 18 or something.
Oh, yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a little bit.
This is kind of an interesting question because it won't probably relate to you, and I'd like to get your pushback on it because it'd be funny. What strategies or systems do you feel like is a key to your success? Do you have any type of systems or strategy? Are you just 100% relationships?
Yeah.
There's not I'm sure you don't have like a CRM or anything. Do you stay in front of any of your clients? Like even a newsletter? Nothing?
Stay in front. No.
Newsletters, nothing like that?
I call people to say hi. I mean, I just put a medical practice in place here in Prosper, and they just opened up last week. So I was at the gym, and then I drove by and I said hi to them. That's the kind of in front of my clients that I stay, I guess.
You do Popeyes. How about Popeye? You ever heard of Popeyes?
Oh yeah, that's how I made my living in the title insurance business, was Popeyes. I knew every single loan officer for Chase Bank, Washington Mutual, and for Wells Fargo in I would say half of DFW. And I would literally just spend my days driving by and popping by and saying hi. Funnily enough, that's what fed me to start selling real estate, was those people were referring me clients.
I can't understate that enough. You have a tenacity that obviously 99% of people don't have. You're just going to stay on it. You know it's going to add up. You know it's going to pay off in the future. And I just think anyone in general, I don't have a formal way of doing things. I think CRMs are a waste of money personally. I think if you develop a good quality sphere of influence and you can consistently stay in front of them, even though you're not doing anything beyond just your relationship building and selling and managing real estate above and beyond just residential, I always think that's a firm belief of just consistently staying in front of them. And you never have to pay for leads. You never have to pay for marketing. In fact, I don't even like my website. I try to actually deactivate it or remove it because I want people to come to my podcast. I want people, and I'm not selling houses on my podcast, but it builds credibility.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm not even using it to sell houses.
I don't even have a website. I sat on a panel with a couple of years ago. It was CCAR called me and said that I was top 4 in transactions or whatever that year in Collin County. And so they asked if I would do a panel with these 3 other ladies who are very good real estate agents, by the way. I've worked with them many times, but they've got their names on the billboards, and they're the brokers of a Remax or a Keller Williams or whatever, and they're very well known.
I bet your answers were way off the charts. Like, what in the world is he talking about?
What was funny was
you're not duplicatable, right? And you're not trying to build anything duplicatable. You're doing Dan Cooper, and I'm doing Dan Cooper relationships. That's how I make my money, and it's not duplicatable.
Well, it is duplicatable, but somebody has to go through the same process, right? So, and the process is not. Well, so what, the funny thing was the moderators asking us questions, stuff like, "How important is marketing and advertising? How important is your website?" And one of the ladies was like, and she has a phenomenal online presence. She's like, before she even started doing business, she spent $50,000 on her website before she got up and running. And it was, it's been so good for her. And it got to me, I was like, and everybody else had, people that ran all their social media and their website stuff. And I was like, well, I don't have a website, right? I mean, like that's not the type of business that I'm in, right? People don't come to me because they see my name on a billboard. They come to me because somebody that they trust said that they had a good experience.
Yeah, here's the inside guy. Here's the cheat code. I like to be the cheat code.
Yeah, no, I get it. So I would if there was any coaching or advice, I would say you need to learn inside and outside, the insides and outsides of real estate. So, I mean, that means construction, that means appraisal, that means the title side, that means the lending side. Like, I'll build for myself, like I had a developer come to me and he was asking if he could take one of the stupid Excel calculators that with a client of mine, I built an Excel calculator that would calculate out what my cash on cash return was per property. And it was varied, whether it was a long-term or short-term rental or it was triple net, but it was a real quick thing where I would just plug in some numbers and it would kick out, here's what your cash on cash return is. A lot of other variables are just going to be constant. It was like, hey, can I take that and turn that into an app and what? I'm like, well, sure, right? It's just like little spreadsheets. But the point is, you need to be able to understand your craft so much that you can explain it in a way that's not, I feel like this is a good investment, right? Where you can have the confidence to say, this is a good investment. This is something that I would buy. And if I won't buy it myself, I will not recommend it to you. But that does mean that you'll get in your own way a lot. I have different clients that are out there looking to buy stuff all the time. They say, hey, I want to buy this. And I look at it and I go, no, you don't. Like that's a terrible idea. That's or maybe it's an okay idea, but you have a greater chance of losing than you do winning. So sometimes they pan out, sometimes they don't. I mean, I almost jumped into a bunch of stuff in Broken Bow, Oklahoma in 2019. And if I had purchased a bunch of stuff in Broken Bow in 2019, I would have done very well because the market went way up. But like as an Airbnb, if it was, that's like the famous place. I want to say it was in Forbes. It was called like the city that Airbnb invented. But by 2022, end of 2022, it was in the New York Times as massive, city on massive collapse. So it went all the way up to about 96% occupancy for the Airbnbs. And so, of course, from an income approach, you look at the income that they're generating, and then the value spiked up in value. So you're no longer in a market comparables approach. You're solely on an income approach like it's commercial real estate. So it spiked like crazy. The numbers went completely off the charts. But when I was looking at it 2019 and chose not to invest, it was mainly because I didn't have a belief in their they had no local economy other than tourism. And then I look around and I see, okay, well, they've got infinite amounts of land that are around them that are selling for $3,000, $5,000 an acre, but a developer will come in there, they'll put in a rock road and they'll sell lots for $150,000 each. So what's to keep somebody from this development to the land to the north and north of that, up and down that road that goes through Hochatown, Oklahoma? What's to keep people from doing that? And then of course that's exactly what happened. They went from 96% occupancy to 22% occupancy, and it's impossible to sell anything there right now because there's no income to be made. So again, my general belief was the fact that I only wanted to invest in a place where I could trust the economy and where there was some barriers to entry or something unique about the property. Like in my case for the land development, instead of Broken Bow, I did the lake. Well, we have lakefront property. There's only so much
Yeah.
lakefront
And
property.
to lock out competitors from ruining the economy in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But whenever you're in a place like that and there's just too much uncertainty, I bowed out. And of course, for 3 years, I looked real dumb. And then now I feel like I'm vindicated. So there's a lot of processes that go into that. And if you can present yourself as an expert, not just present yourself as an expert, if you can actually have a serious conversation with a lot of people about these different topics, then they will look at you and say, okay, well, I can trust this person, opposed to this person's just trying to sell me something.
Yeah. No, that's important. And knowing what they say in G.I. Joe is half the battle. Let me ask you one last question. If you had a cold call, and you probably don't get very many of them, or maybe you get them, and they said, hey, Dan, I know you're selling quite a bit of real estate, not in a cheesy way, but hey, I need to buy a house, 300,000 in, say, McKinney.
Sure.
Would you entertain that conversation, or would you refer it out? Okay.
Oh no, I'll take that deal. Right. If
You'll vet them. I'm sure you're going to vet them, make sure they're qualified.
house in Palo Pinto County, well, then
No, yeah,
right.
I get you. Right. I just wonder if there's a limit, right? Because we, I get some that call and I'm just like, man, I don't know you, don't know me. I don't think I'm going to be a good fit for you because I'm not a sales guy either. I mean, I don't have a listing
call if it's an online call, right? And I think the person's sincere, right? Then sure, I'll work with them. But if it's a random Zillow call or something like that, then they're going to call me to look at this property, call you to look at another property, and they're not going to have any loyalty whatsoever, right? I have to at least have the feeling that, hey, they're not just looking for somebody to unlock a door for them.
I got one more question. This is a funny one. Do you have a listing presentation?
No. Yeah, actually, my listing presentation is this. I print out a bunch of MLS, right? A bunch of times. And I will sit down and I will perform an appraisal right in front of them with the USPAP guidelines and Fannie Mae guidelines. And I will show them, here's what your house is worth. And here's the exact process that your buyer's appraiser someday will take. And I'm going to tell you the exact comparables, at least the ones that we believe that he is going to choose, and let me perform the appraisal in front of you. If you price your house incorrectly, it's not going to sell very well. If you price it correctly, it will. That's my presentation. It's not a parlor trick. I don't have any lines. I just perform the appraisal. I want to educate them as much as possible. And generally that's respected. I don't come in there with colorful sheets and flyers that I'm going to put in their yard and magazine articles or anything like that. Absolutely not.
Love it. Do you have anything that you would want to share or promote of any sort? Any type of thing of anything? Book? Facebook group?
A book or something that I run?
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, hey, if y'all know of anybody that wants lakefront property at Bodark Lake here in about 6 months to a year, not one of the ones that you hear on the radio where it's, come for this one day only or anything like that, but I'll have phase 1, 111 lots selling on the southeast part of the lake, which I believe is the best part of the lake. So call me
where's that lake? Which direction?
It's northeast. So if you know where Bonham is, so I'll tell you, Bonham is 35 miles up northeast on 121 from McKinney. And there's tiny little Lake Bonham, and then there's massive Bodark Lake, which is 17,000 acres. Lake Bonham's about 900 acres, where Bodark is about 17,000 acres. So it's about the same size as Lake Lavon, smaller than Lake Louisville, but it's about 2.5 times the size of Lake Grapevine. So it's a large lake. It's a big, the state's been planning it for 45 years, and it opened last May. So.
Well, awesome, Dan. Thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate you. I've known you a long time. You've killed it. You're successful. And just to have you be able to do this on is a big plus for me. I appreciate you doing that.
Sure thing, man. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being on. If you want any more information on Dan, he's a secret agent. He won't let you know who he is. You can contact me. I'll connect you with him because he's certainly a good resource. And be honest with you, the conversation that he and I are having, I've had lots of these with him over the years. He's very open. He doesn't hold any secrets. If he's given me several lenders, he's given me a lot of different contractors and things over the years. So if you have any resources or things you want to benefit from, he's willing to have a conversation. He's very easygoing. So thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely,
for
man.
all of you, please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to continue to have a great opportunity like this every single week. And until then, have a high performance week. Thank you.
That wraps up another episode of Real Estate Success DFW. I hope you're leaving with new insights that push your real estate career forward. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with fellow agents who's ready to succeed. And if you're interested in working together or have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly. My personal phone is 214-228-0383. Let's connect and make real estate success happen together. Until next time, keep pushing forward. I'm Shaune Corbett, and this is the Real Estate Success DFW. Have a high performance week.